The twin suns of New Jeju were setting when Taiho heard the crash. He was 12 years old and wasn't supposed to be this far from the colony. His father, Doyen, had told him 100 times to stay near the settlement. But Taiho loved exploring the red hills and purple forests that surrounded their home. The sound was like thunder, but the sky was clear. Taiho turned toward the noise and saw black smoke rising from behind a rocky ridge. His heart began to race. A ship had crashed. He knew he should run back to the colony and tell someone. That would be the smart thing to do. But his feet carried him toward the smoke instead. As he climbed over the ridge, Taiho saw the wreckage. A small scout ship lay broken among the rocks. Its metal hull was torn open like paper. Sparks flew from damaged systems. The ship wasn't human design. It was angular and dark, covered in strange markings that looked like claw marks. Taiho's stomach twisted with fear. Everyone in the colony knew about the Velkari. They were the most dangerous species in the galaxy. 8 feet tall with armored scales, forearms, and claws that could cut through steel. They were born hunters, born warriors. Other aliens feared them. Even humans, who had only joined the Galactic Coalition 5 years ago, knew to stay away from the Velkari. He should run. He should definitely run. But then he heard something from inside the wreckage. A sound that might have been a groan of pain. Someone was alive in there. Taiho moved closer, his hands shaking. Through a tear in the hull, he could see movement. A massive shape was trapped under twisted metal. As his eyes adjusted to the darkness inside, Taiho saw him clearly. The Velkari warrior was huge even while pinned down. His scales were dark green with patterns of gold. 2 of his forearms were crushed under debris. Blood, darker than human blood, pooled beneath him. His eyes opened and they glowed like amber fire in the shadows. "Stay back, soft skin," the Velkari growled in rough galactic common. His voice was deep and harsh. "I am Krivax of the Velkari. I need no help from your kind." Taiho swallowed hard. Every instinct told him to listen, to run away. But he saw the way Krivax's chest heaved with each breath. He saw the pain in those glowing eyes even if the warrior tried to hide it. "You're hurt," Taiho said quietly. "You'll die if you stay like this." "Then I die as a warrior," Krivax replied. "It is not your concern, but I can help you." Krivax laughed, but it turned into a cough that sounded painful. "You, a human child? You cannot even lift the smallest piece of metal that traps me. Go away before you get hurt." Taiho didn't go away. He climbed into the wreckage, careful of the sharp edges and hot metal. Up close, Krivax was even more terrifying. Each of his claws was as long as Taiho's hand. His teeth were like knives. The warrior could kill him with barely any effort, but he was also trapped and dying. And Taiho couldn't just walk away from that. "I might not be strong," Taiho said, looking at the debris pinning Krivax down. "But I can be smart." He studied the wreckage carefully. The main beam crushing Krivax's arms was too heavy to lift, that was true. But if he could use leverage, if he could find the right angle, maybe he could shift it enough. For the next 3 hours, Taiho worked. He found a long piece of metal to use as a lever. He stacked rocks to create a fulcrum point. Krivax watched him with those burning amber eyes, saying nothing. When the first attempt failed, Taiho tried again from a different angle. When that failed, he tried again. "Why do you do this?" Krivax finally asked. His voice was weaker now. "I am your enemy. My people have killed humans before. We do not make friends with other species. We do not ask for mercy and we do not give it." Taiho paused in his work, wiping sweat from his forehead. "My father says that we should judge people by what they do, not by what others say about them. You haven't hurt me. You're just someone who needs help. I warned you to leave. I know." Taiho smiled a little. "I'm not very good at listening." Something changed in Krivax's expression then. It was subtle, but Taiho noticed it. The warrior's eyes softened just slightly. As the moons rose, Taiho finally managed to shift the main beam enough for Krivax to pull his crushed arms free. The Velkari roared in pain, and the sound made Taiho's blood run cold. But Krivax was free. The warrior tried to stand but immediately collapsed. The crash and his injuries had taken too much from him. Taiho quickly pulled out his water bottle and offered it. Krivax stared at it like it was a weapon. "It's just water," Taiho said. "You need it." Krivax drank, his eyes never leaving Taiho's face. When he finished, he spoke in a voice barely above a whisper. "I have fought warriors twice my size. I have survived battles that would destroy lesser beings. But I have never met anyone like you, human child. You have more courage than soldiers I have known. I'm just Taiho, the boy replied. And you need medicine and rest. I can't carry you, but I can get help. No. Krivax's voice was sharp with panic. Your people will kill me if they find me. The coalition will imprison me. I am a Velkari warrior alone on an alien world. I am at your mercy. Those last words seemed to hurt him more than his injuries. Taiho thought for a long moment. Then he pulled off his jacket and covered part of Krivax's shivering body. It was far too small to do much good, but it was something. There's a cave not far from here, Taiho said. If I help you get there, you'll be hidden. Then I'll bring medical supplies. My sister Minji is good with tech and medicine. She can help. Why would you risk this? Krivax asked. If your people discover you helped me, you will be punished. Taiho looked directly into those alien amber eyes. Because it's the right thing to do, and because I think maybe everyone is wrong about the Velkari. Maybe you're not monsters. Maybe you're just people that nobody ever tried to know. For the first time in his life, Krivax had no words. He simply stared at this small human boy who showed him more kindness in one night than he had received in his entire warrior's life. With Taiho's help, moving slowly and painfully, Krivax managed to reach the cave. As the warrior settled against the cold stone, exhausted and wounded, he did something he had never done before. He pressed one clawed hand against his own chest, then extended it toward Taiho. Taiho didn't understand the gesture, but he felt its importance. I will return, he promised. Just stay alive until I get back. As Taiho ran through the night toward the colony, Krivax watched him go. The human child had saved his life. More than that, the boy had seen him not as a monster to fear, but as a person worth saving. In the Velkari language, there was a word, Krathza. It meant a bond between warriors so deep that they became brothers in spirit. It was the highest honor a Velkari could give. For thousands of years, no Velkari had ever offered it to an alien. But as Krivax sat alone in the cave, his hand still pressed against his chest, he knew something had changed. This human boy, this Taiho, had done more than save his life. He had shown him what was possible. Minji didn't believe her little brother at first. When Taiho burst into her room at midnight, babbling about a crashed Velkari warrior, she thought he was having a nightmare. Then she saw the golden blood on his clothes and the desperate look in his eyes. You did what? She whispered, trying not to wake their father in the next room. I had to help him, Minji. He was dying. He's Velkari. They're the most dangerous species in the galaxy. He's hurt and alone, Taiho insisted. Please, I need medical supplies and your help. If we don't do something, he'll die. Minji looked at her brother for a long moment. Taiho had always been kind, sometimes too kind for his own good. But she saw something else in his face now. Determination. The kind that wouldn't fade even if she said no. She grabbed her medical kit and engineering tools. Show me. They moved through the darkness together, carrying supplies. Minji kept her scanner ready, checking for colony patrols. If anyone caught them helping a Velkari, the consequences would be severe. Fear of the warrior species ran deep in the colony. When they reached the cave, Minji's breath caught. Krivax was even larger than she'd imagined from the stories. His scales gleamed in her flashlight, and his forearms looked powerful even in their injured state. His amber eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made her want to run. This is my sister, Taiho said calmly, kneeling beside Krivax. She's here to help. More humans, Krivax rumbled. Does your entire colony know I am here? Just us, Minji said, forcing her voice to stay steady. And we're risking a lot to keep it that way. She examined his injuries with professional focus, trying not to think about the claws that could tear her apart. 2 of his arms were badly broken. He had internal bleeding. Burns covered parts of his scaled body. It was a miracle he was still alive. I can stabilize you, she said. But you need real medical care. Velkari biology is different from human. I'm doing this blind. Do what you can, Krivax replied. I am in your debt, human female. Minji, my name is Minji. Something flickered in Krivax's eyes. Recognition, perhaps. The acknowledgement of a name was important to the Velkari. Over the next 2 weeks, the siblings visited Krivax every day. Taiho came before school and after, bringing food and water. Minji came in the evenings with fresh bandages and medicine. Slowly, carefully, they helped the warrior heal. At first, Krivax barely spoke. He watched them with suspicious eyes as if waiting for betrayal. but Taiho filled the silence with stories. He talked about Earth, the planet his grandparents came from. He talked about his favorite books and the games he played with his friends. He asked Krivax questions about Velkari culture, genuinely curious about the warrior's world. "We do not have stories like yours," Krivax said one evening. His broken arms were healing slowly. "Velkari tales are about battle and honor. We do not speak of feelings or friendship. Such things are considered weakness." "That sounds lonely," Taiho said simply. Krivax was quiet for a long time. "Yes," he finally admitted. "It is." As the days passed, something unexpected happened. Krivax began teaching Taiho about Velkari combat philosophy, not to train him as a warrior, but because sharing knowledge was how his people showed respect. He taught Taiho breathing techniques used to stay calm in danger. He explained how Velkari warriors read their opponents through tiny movements. In return, Taiho taught Krivax human concepts that had no equivalent in Velkari culture. Friendship that existed without trials of combat, trust given freely instead of earned through blood, family bonds based on love rather than just survival of bloodlines. "Your species is strange," Krivax said, but his tone was thoughtful rather than mocking. "You are physically weak compared to most species. Yet you survived and thrived. How?" "Maybe because we don't survive alone," Taiho suggested. "We help each other." The peaceful routine shattered on the 14th day. Taiho's best friend Hana had noticed his strange behavior. She followed him to the cave, worried something was wrong. When she saw Krivax, she screamed. The sound echoed across the hills. In the colony below, security alarms began to wail. "Hana, wait!" Taiho shouted, but his friend was already running, terrified. Within minutes, armed soldiers surrounded the cave. Their weapons were raised, pointed at Krivax. The warrior tried to stand, tried to look strong despite his injuries. "Step away from the alien boy," the security chief ordered. "That's a Velkari. It's dangerous." "He has a name," Taiho said, planting himself between the guns and Krivax. "His name is Krivax, and he hasn't hurt anyone." "Move aside, Taiho, that's an order." "No." The security chief nodded to one of his men. The soldier moved forward to grab Taiho and pull him to safety. The moment the soldier touched Taiho, something incredible happened. Krivax roared. The sound was primal, terrifying, and desperate all at once. Despite his broken bones, despite being barely healed, Krivax lunged forward. He didn't attack the soldiers. Instead, he wrapped his forearms around Taiho, shielding the boy's body with his own armored form. The soldiers froze in shock. Velkari never protected other species. They barely protected their own young. The warrior species was known for their survival instinct and self-preservation. Yet here was a Velkari warrior, offering his own body as a shield for a human child. "Don't hurt him," Krivax growled, his voice strained with pain from the movement. "The boy is under my protection. Anyone who touches him faces me. Stand down," a new voice commanded. Doyen pushed through the circle of soldiers. Taiho's father was the colony administrator, and his word carried weight. He looked at the scene before him, his son in the arms of a Velkari warrior, both looking ready to fight the entire security force. "Taiho," Doyen said carefully, "what have you done?" "I saved his life, father. And he saved mine just now. He's not what everyone says. He's not a monster." Doyen studied Krivax for a long moment. The Velkari warrior stared back, defiant but also protective. One of his arms remained curved around Taiho, keeping the boy safe. "What is your name, warrior?" Doyen asked. "I am Krivax, son of Velnoth, scout of the 3rd Fleet. And why did you crash on our world?" "System failure." "It was not intentional." Krivax's voice was steady. "I sought no conflict. Your son found me dying. He chose to help. I owe him a life debt." "Life debt?" Doyen frowned. "I didn't know the Velkari believed in such things." "We do not," Krivax admitted. "Not with aliens. But your son has taught me that perhaps some of our beliefs are wrong." The security chief stepped forward. "Sir, we should contact the coalition. The Velkari are classified as dangerous. There are protocols." "Protocols that would see him imprisoned or worse," Minji said, stepping forward. She had been silent until now. "Father, Taiho was right to help. I've seen it myself. Krivax isn't an enemy. He could have hurt us at any time, but he never did." Doyen looked at his children, then at the warrior who still sheltered his son. He thought about the laws and protocols, about the fear that governed so much of galactic interaction. Then he thought about what kind of man he wanted to be, what kind of example he wanted to set for his children. "Lower your weapons," he ordered the soldiers. "Sir, I must protest. I am the administrator of this colony and I am making a decision. This Velkari, Krivax, is granted temporary sanctuary. He will remain in secure quarters until he is fully healed. Then we will discuss what happens next." The security chief looked unhappy but obeyed. As the soldiers lowered their weapons, Krivax slowly released Taiho. The warrior was trembling from pain and exhaustion, but he met Doyen's eyes with respect. "You honor your son's courage," Krivax said. "That is the mark of a true leader." "My son has good instincts," Doyen replied, "though his methods are questionable." That night, as Krivax rested in a secure room in the colony's medical facility, Taiho sat beside him. Minji had checked all of Krivax's injuries again. The desperate movement to protect Taiho had reopened some of his wounds, but he would survive. "You could have let them take me," Taiho said quietly. "You were almost healed. You could have escaped later." "No," Krivax said firmly. "You saved my life when you had no reason to. You showed me kindness when your people teach you to fear mine. I could not let them harm you." "Why?" Krivax touched his clawed hand to his chest, then extended it toward Taiho again. This time he explained, "Among my people there is a bond called Krathsa. It means soul bond, brother bond. When two warriors fight together, bleed together, and would die for each other, they become Krathsa. It has never been offered to an alien before, but you, Taiho, are worthy of it. You are my brother now." Taiho didn't fully understand everything the gesture meant, but he understood enough. He placed his small hand over Krivax's much larger one. "Brothers," he agreed. Neither of them knew that in an orbital station above the planet, a message had already been sent to the Velkari fleet. Commander Rathzul was coming, and he was not pleased. Commander Rathzul arrived 3 days later with a warship that cast shadows over the colony. He was massive even for a Velkari, his scales dark as midnight with scars from 100 battles. When he walked through the colony, humans scattered from his path. Doyen met him in the administration building with Krivax standing beside him. Taiho and Minji watched from the doorway, told to stay back but refusing to leave completely. "You have my scout," Rathzul said without greeting. His voice was like grinding stone. "I have a warrior who crashed on our world and is recovering," Doyen replied carefully. "Then I will take him and leave." "No." Krivax stepped forward. "Commander, with respect, I invoke the right of Krathsa. I have bonded with a human. This bond supersedes military duty under ancient law." The silence that followed was absolute. Rathzul stared at Krivax as if his scout had grown a second head. "You claim Krathsa with an alien?" The commander's voice was dangerously quiet. "With a human child?" "I do. That is impossible. Krathsa requires warrior spirit, battle prowess, honor. Humans are soft. They are weak. They cannot bond with Velkari. This is some trick, some human manipulation." "It is no trick," Krivax said firmly. "This human showed me courage beyond any I have witnessed. He saved my life when he could have left me to die. He risked everything to protect me. If that is not the spirit of a warrior, then our definition is flawed." Rathzul's eyes blazed. "You dare question our ways?" "I question whether our ways are as absolute as we believe." The commander circled Krivax slowly, studying him. "You have been corrupted. The humans have infected your mind. This false bond must be broken, and you must return to our fleet for re-education." "No," Taiho said, stepping forward despite Minji grabbing his arm. Rathzul looked down at the small human boy. You are the one who claims brotherhood with a Velkari warrior?" "I don't just claim it. I live it." Taiho's voice shook, but he stood his ground. "Krivax is my brother. Humans know nothing of our bonds. You cannot possibly understand what Krathsa means. Then teach me. Test us. There must be some way to prove the bond is real." Rathzul's expression shifted slightly. Interest sparked in his eyes. "You would submit to a Velkari trial? Do you know what that means, human child? Our trials are designed for warriors. Many Velkari have died in such tests. If it proves Krivax and I are truly bonded, then yes." "I'll do it." "Taiho, no," Minji protested. "You don't know what you're agreeing to." But Doyen understood his son's determination. "What would this trial involve?" Rathzul considered. "Traditional Krathsa trials involve combat to the death, but even I can see that would prove nothing here. A human child cannot fight a Velkari warrior." He paused, thinking. The point of a Krathsa trial is to test whether two warriors are truly bonded in spirit. Whether they trust each other completely. Perhaps there is another way. 2 days later, the trial began. Rathazul had brought a Velkari elder named Vexnar, ancient and wise, to oversee the proceedings. The entire colony gathered to watch, along with representatives from the coalition who had heard about the unprecedented situation. The trial was split into 2 parts, happening simultaneously. Taiho would face a challenge designed for Velkari warriors. Kryvax would face a challenge designed for humans. Each could only succeed with the other's guidance. If either fails, the bond is proven false, Vexnar announced. Kryvax will return to his fleet, and the human will be punished for his deception. And if we succeed? Taiho asked. Then the galaxy will witness something that has never occurred in 10,000 years of Velkari history. Taiho was led to a massive maze, its walls covered in sensors and hidden traps. It was a hunter's trial, designed to test a warrior's instincts and reflexes. Humans didn't have those instincts. Taiho's only advantage was a small communicator linking him to Kryvax. At the same time, Kryvax was placed in a room filled with puzzles, delicate tasks, and challenges requiring patience and emotional control. Everything a Velkari warrior was trained not to value. The trial began. Taiho entered the maze, his heart pounding. Almost immediately, sensors detected his movement. A panel in the wall shot out a training blade that would have struck his head if he hadn't been warned. "Duck left now," Kryvax's voice came through the communicator. Taiho obeyed without thinking, feeling the blade whistle past his ear. He trusted Kryvax completely. In his own trial, Kryvax faced a puzzle that required arranging colored crystals in a specific pattern. The pattern was based on human emotional associations with colors. Red for anger, blue for calm, yellow for joy. Concepts he had never studied. "The red one goes in the center," Minji's voice said through his communicator. She had been allowed to guide him, just as Kryvax guided Taiho. "It represents passion, which is at the heart of human bonding." Kryvax wanted to smash the puzzle in frustration. This was not warrior's work. But he thought of Taiho in the maze, trusting him completely. He carefully placed the red crystal where Minji instructed. The trial went on for hours. Taiho navigated the maze by following Kryvax's instructions exactly. Even when his human instincts screamed differently, he learned to move like a Velkari hunter, to anticipate traps the way a warrior would. Kryvax completed puzzles by learning to think like a human, to value cooperation over domination, gentleness over force. One challenge required him to care for a small injured creature without harming it. His warrior instincts saw it as prey, but he remembered how Taiho had cared for him in the cave. He treated the creature with the same gentle hands. Humans and Velkari watching the trial saw something remarkable. A human boy moving with warrior precision, a Velkari warrior showing tenderness and patience, each succeeding not by becoming the other, but by trusting the bond between them. Then came the final challenge. Taiho reached the center of the maze to find a combat drone activating. It was programmed to attack with non-lethal but painful weapons. He had no way to defeat it alone. At the same moment, Kryvax's final puzzle appeared. A control panel for the drone, locked in his room. He could shut it down safely if he completed a complex sequence. But the sequence would take time, and Taiho was already in danger. Or Kryvax could simply smash the panel, destroying the puzzle and failing his trial, but stopping the drone immediately. Through the communicator, Kryvax heard the drone powering up. He heard Taiho's sharp breath of fear. "Kryvax?" Taiho's voice was small. "What do I do?" Kryvax looked at the panel. He had come so far. Proving the Krathasa bond would change everything for both of them. If he failed now, he would lose his brother and return to his fleet in disgrace. But if he didn't act, Taiho would be hurt. There was no choice at all. Kryvax's fist crashed through the control panel, destroying it completely. Sparks flew and alarms blared. In the maze, the drone immediately powered down, freezing in place just meters from Taiho. Silence fell over the gathered crowd. "The Velkari warrior has failed his trial," one of the judges announced. But Elder Vexnar raised his hand. The ancient Velkari had been watching both trials carefully. Now he rose from his seat, his eyes bright with something that might have been wonder. "No," Vexnar said. "He has not failed. He has proven the bond beyond any doubt." But he destroyed the final puzzle, Rathzul protested. The rules were clear. The rules test whether two warriors would die for each other, Vexnar replied. Krivax chose his bond brother over his own honor, his own success. He gave up everything to protect the human. That is the deepest proof of Krathza. The bond is real. The crowd erupted in shocked murmurs. Humans and aliens alike had never seen anything like this. Taiho ran from the maze and found Krivax in the trial room, standing amid the wreckage of the puzzle. The warrior looked defeated, believing he had failed them both. You did it, Taiho said, throwing his arms around one of Krivax's legs since he couldn't reach higher. You saved me. I failed the trial, Krivax said quietly. No, Taiho insisted. You chose me. That's what brothers do. Vexnar approached them, his ancient face thoughtful. I have lived 300 years. I have witnessed countless Krathza bonds between Velkhari warriors. But I have never seen one so pure as this. You two have proven that bonds of the spirit are not limited by species or physical form. He turned to address everyone gathered. I declare this Krathza valid. Taiho of the humans and Krivax of the Velkhari are bond brothers. Let the galaxy witness this new truth. Rathazul looked troubled but bowed his head in acceptance. The elder has spoken. The bond is recognized. But as the crowd celebrated this historic moment, a message arrived from the Velkhari homeworld. The Council of Matriarchs had heard about the trial. They were not pleased. A war pack was being sent to New Jeju. The message was clear. This bond was an abomination that threatened their entire culture. It would be ended by force if necessary. Taiho and Krivax stood together, hands clasped as they heard the news. They had won this battle, but a greater one was coming. They had 30 days before the war pack arrived. 30 days to prepare for warriors who wanted to destroy what Taiho and Krivax had built. The colony fell into fear and argument. Many wanted to send Krivax away to save themselves. Others wanted to fight. Everyone expected violence. Taiho had a different idea. What if we invite them here? He said at the emergency colony meeting. Not to fight, but to see. To understand. Invite them? The security chief scoffed. Boy, a war pack doesn't come for tea and conversation. They come to kill. They're coming because they don't believe our bond is real, Taiho argued. They think humans somehow tricked Krivax. So let's show them the truth. Let's show the whole galaxy. Minji understood immediately. A cultural exchange. We bring humans and Velkhari together here. Let them interact. Prove that bonds between our species are possible. That's insane? Someone shouted from the crowd. Maybe, Doyen said thoughtfully, but it might be our only chance to prevent a war. If we fight the war pack, we'll lose. If we run, they'll hunt us. But if we can show them proof that humans and Velkhari can coexist, maybe we can change their minds. It's never been done, Rathzul added. He had remained on New Jeju after the trial, fascinated by what he had witnessed. Velkhari do not socialize with other species. We do not understand your customs and you fear ours. Then let's learn, Taiho said simply. We have 30 days. Let's use them. The message went out across human space and to individual Velkhari warriors. Come to New Jeju. Witness history. See if two species can bridge the impossible gap. The response was overwhelming. Hundreds of humans volunteered to come. Scientists, teachers, families, soldiers, all curious about the boy who befriended a Velkhari. The coalition sent observers. News crews arrived to document everything. More surprisingly, some Velkhari came too. Not many. And they came quietly, but they came. Warriors who had heard whispers of Krivax's bond and wanted to see if it was real. Among them was a young warrior named Soyi, barely older than Krivax, whose eyes held questions that she had never dared speak aloud. The colony transformed into something unprecedented. Humans and Velkhari in the same spaces trying to understand each other. It was not easy. A Velkhari warrior named Thaxron accidentally injured a human during a demonstration of combat techniques. He had not understood how fragile human bones were. The human spent 2 days in medical care and several families left the colony in fear. A human child's sudden scream triggered a Velkhari warrior's predator instincts. He had to be restrained before anyone was hurt, but the incident terrified everyone present. Misunderstandings happened daily. Velkhari spoke in growls and roars that humans found threatening. Humans touched casually, which Velkhari interpreted as challenge behavior. Cultural rituals offended both sides. Each failure threatened to end the experiment entirely. But there were successes too, small ones that gave everyone hope. Dr. Yunji, a human xenobiologist, discovered something remarkable while studying Velkari brain patterns. The warriors didn't lack emotion. They felt as deeply as humans, perhaps more so. But their culture had trained them to suppress and redirect these feelings into combat and honor codes. "You're not born cold," she explained to Thaxron after his accident. "You're taught to be. Somewhere inside you still feel guilt for hurting that person. Don't you?" Thaxron's silence was admission enough. Jaehyun, a human military strategist, found himself working alongside a Velkari tactician on defensive plans in case the warpack proved hostile. They approached strategy differently, but both recognized brilliance in the other's methods. What began as tense cooperation slowly became something like mutual respect. Hana, still nervous around Velkari after her initial panic, started teaching art classes. To everyone's surprise, Soyi attended. The young Velkari warrior was fascinated by human painting, the way colors could express feelings that words couldn't. "We have something similar," Soyi admitted quietly, showing Hana a star poem, traditional Velkari art made by arranging stones to reflect constellations. "But we are taught it is childish. Warriors should not create, only destroy." "That sounds lonely," Hana said, echoing Taiho's words from weeks ago. "Yes," Soyi agreed, her voice barely a whisper. "It is." At the center of everything stood Taiho and Kryvax, living proof that the bond was possible. They went everywhere together. When humans were afraid, Taiho showed them Kryvax's gentleness. When Velkari were skeptical, Kryvax demonstrated the strength he had learned from his human brother. News of the gathering spread across the galaxy. Some species watched with hope, others with fear. The Velkari homeworld watched with growing anger. 20 days into the experiment, a message arrived from the Warpack. They would arrive in 10 days, not 30. War Master Krathkhan was leading them personally. He was ancient, powerful, and absolutely traditional in his beliefs. The message was clear: end this abomination now, or they would end it by force. "We need more time," Minji said desperately at the leadership meeting that night. "We don't have more time," the security chief replied. "We need to evacuate the civilians and prepare for battle." "No," Kryvax said firmly. "Battle is what they expect. It would prove their point that humans and Velkari cannot coexist peacefully. We must continue as planned." "Continue?" Rathzul looked troubled. "Krathkhan is not like me. He will not be impressed by cultural exchanges. He sees this as a disease that must be eliminated. Then we show him something he cannot deny," Taiho said. His young face was determined. "We show him the truth." The last 10 days became a desperate rush. More interactions, more attempts at understanding, more proof to gather. The news crews documented everything. Messages of support came from across human space and from a few brave aliens of other species. On the final day before the Warpack's arrival, something unexpected happened. A transport ship landed and Ambassador G1 stepped out. She was one of humanity's representatives to the Galactic Coalition, a woman of great influence and wisdom. "I came to see this bond for myself," she told Doyen. "The Coalition is watching. The outcome here will affect human standing in the galaxy for generations." That night the colony held a gathering, humans and Velkari together, sharing food and stories. It was awkward and strange, but it was happening. Taiho stood with Kryvax watching the scene. Across the room he saw Soyi talking quietly with Hana, both of them looking less alone than before. He saw Dr. Yunji laughing at something Thaxron had said in his rough galactic common. He saw his father and Rathzul discussing philosophy like old friends. "Do you think it will be enough?" Taiho asked. "I do not know," Kryvax admitted. "War Master Krathkhan is set in his ways. He has fought for 300 years to preserve our culture exactly as it is. He sees any change as weakness. But you changed," Taiho pointed out, "because you showed me another way. You did not force me or trick me. You simply offered friendship and I chose to accept it." Kryvax placed one large hand on Taiho's shoulder. "That is what frightens the Homeworld Council. Not that humans are dangerous, but that we might choose you over our traditions. That we might want connection more than isolation." The next morning, the Warpack arrived. 15 Velkari warships appeared in orbit around New Jeju. They were massive and terrifying. Weapon systems active, making their threat clear. A shuttle descended, carrying War Master Krathkhan and his personal guard of elite warriors. The entire colony gathered to meet them, humans and Velkari standing together now, no longer separated by fear. Krathkon emerged from the shuttle, and even Rathzul looked small beside him. The War Master was enormous, scarred from countless battles, his scales nearly black with age. His eyes swept across the gathering with cold judgment. "I am War Master Krathkon." His voice boomed across the assembled crowd. "I have come to end this corruption. Kryvax, you will renounce your false bond and execute the human child who has poisoned your mind. Do this and you may return to the fleet with honor. Refuse, and you will die alongside these aliens." The silence was absolute. Every human felt the weight of that ultimatum. This was a warrior who had destroyed entire fleets. One colony would mean nothing to him. Kryvax stepped forward, and Taiho walked with him, hand in his brother's massive clawed hand. "No," Kryvax said clearly. "I will not renounce my bond. I will not harm my brother. If you wish to end this, you will have to go through both of us." Krathkon's eyes blazed with fury. "Then you leave me no choice. I challenge you to single combat, Kryvax. You will fight me, and when you fall, I will complete your failure by eliminating this human corruption." Before Kryvax could respond, something unprecedented happened. Soy stepped forward from the war pack. Then another young Velkari warrior. Then another. 12 warriors in total, all younger generation, all who had been watching the news coverage of the gathering. "The challenge is refused," Soyi declared, her voice shaking but firm. "A Krathsa bond grants the bonded the status of warrior family. Under ancient law, families fight together. We stand with Kryvax." Krathkon stared at them in absolute shock. His own warriors defying him. Standing with an alien. "This is impossible," he whispered. But it was happening. The galaxy was changing right before his ancient eyes. War Master Krathkon looked at the young warriors who had defied him. His face showed confusion, then anger, then something that might have been fear. Not fear of battle, but fear of what these warriors represented. Change. Evolution. The end of the old ways. "You dare stand against your War Master?" His voice was like thunder. "We stand for the truth," Soya replied. "We have watched the broadcast from New Jeju. We have seen what Kryvax and the human boy have built. It is not weakness. It is a new kind of strength." "Strength?" Krathkon laughed bitterly. "Strength is what we have always known. Strength is standing alone, needing no one, conquering all." "And where has that strength led us?" another young warrior asked. "We are the most feared species in the galaxy, yes, but we are also the most alone. No one trusts us. No one knows us. We are powerful, but we are isolated. That is the Velkari way." "Perhaps the Velkari way can grow," Kryvax said quietly. "I was taught as you were, War Master. I believed as you believe. Then I met a human boy who risked everything to save my life. He showed me that bonds can exist without weakness. That connection can make us stronger, not weaker." Krathkon's claws flexed, ready for violence. But before he could attack, Teho did something that stopped everyone cold. He stepped forward, away from the protection of the Velkari warriors, and walked straight toward the War Master, alone, unarmed. A 12-year-old human boy approaching one of the most dangerous warriors in the galaxy. "Teho." "No," Minji screamed, but Doyen held her back. He understood that this moment belonged to his son. Krathkon stared down at the small human. He could kill Teho with one swipe of his claws. Part of him wanted to end this challenge to everything he had believed for 3 centuries. "What do you want, human child?" he growled. "I want to ask you something," Teho said, his voice steady despite his fear. "Have you ever had a friend, War Master?" The question was so unexpected that Krathkon actually stepped back. "Friends? We do not need friends. We have battle brothers, but do they know you? Really know you? Do you share your fears with them? Your hopes, your dreams? Or do you only share combat? Those things are private. Weakness." "My father taught me that sharing ourselves is what makes us strong," Taiho continued. "Kryvax was the strongest warrior I'd ever seen, but he was alone. Now he has me and Minji and Hana and dozens of others who care about him, not because we have to, but because we want to. Doesn't that sound better than being alone?" For a long moment, Krathkon said nothing. The entire galaxy seemed to hold its breath, watching this impossible conversation between an ancient warrior and a human child. "I have been alone for 300 years, the War Master finally said, his voice softer than before. "I have conquered enemies and led armies. I have earned every scar on my body, but I have never had someone simply ask how I feel. Is that truly what you offer? Connection without conquest? Yes, Taiho said simply. That's what friends do. Something broke in Krathkon's expression. 3 centuries of isolation, of suppressed emotion, of following rules that demanded he stand apart from everything. He looked at Krivax and the young warriors who had defied him. He looked at the humans and Velkari standing together in the colony. He saw what he had been too rigid to see before. This was not corruption. This was evolution. I came here to end an abomination, Krathkon said slowly, but I see now that the only abomination is the isolation we have forced upon ourselves. He turned to his warpack warriors still in orbit. Stand down. There will be no combat today. A cheer erupted from the crowd, but it died quickly as another ship appeared. This one was larger, more ornate. The symbol of the Velkari Homeworld Council marked its hull. High Matriarch Velshara herself had come. The crowd fell silent again as the ancient leader of all Velkari descended from her ship. She was smaller than the warriors, but carried an authority that made even Krathkon bow his head. She was 500 years old, and she had led her people through wars, disasters, and the slow expansion into the galaxy. She walked slowly through the gathered crowd, studying everything. The humans and Velkari standing together, the young warriors who had chosen connection over tradition, the news crews documenting everything. Finally, she stood before Taiho and Krivax. So, she said, her voice surprisingly gentle for one so powerful. You are the human boy who has shaken the foundations of my entire civilization. I didn't mean to, Taiho said honestly. I just wanted to help someone who needed it. Velshara studied him for a long time. Then she looked at Krivax. And you, warrior, do you truly believe this bond is equal to our traditional Krathza? I believe it is stronger, Matriarch, Krivax said firmly. Because it was chosen freely, without any test of combat or trial of blood. It exists purely because 2 beings decided they valued each other. Such bonds are untested, unproven by the old ways. The old ways have kept us alive, Krivax acknowledged. But these new ways might let us truly live. Velshara was quiet for so long that Taiho feared she would reject everything. Then, surprisingly, she gestured for him to come closer. May I speak with you privately, young human? They walked a short distance away from the crowd. Taiho's heart pounded, but he kept his chin up. Velshara settled onto a rock, bringing herself closer to his height. Tell me, Taiho, she said softly, why did you save Krivax that first night? You knew what we Velkari are. You knew the danger. Because he needed help, Taiho replied. And because I thought maybe if I showed him kindness, he might show me who the Velkari really are. Not the scary stories, but the truth. And what truth did you find? That you're not monsters. You're just people who were taught to be alone, and that must hurt so much. The matriarch's eyes widened slightly. In 500 years, no one had spoken to her with such simple, genuine empathy. No one had acknowledged the cost of their chosen isolation. Yes, she admitted quietly, it does hurt. But we call that hurt strength. We call that pain honor. But what if you didn't have to hurt anymore? Taiho asked. What if there was another way? Velshara looked back at the gathering. She saw Soyi talking with the human girl Hana, both of them sharing art. She saw Thaxron carefully teaching human children about Velkari star poems, moving with a gentleness she had never witnessed in a warrior. She saw Krivax and Rathzul and the other warriors watching Taiho with protective concern. They had formed bonds, real, genuine bonds, and they were not weaker for it. If anything, they looked stronger, more complete. I cannot change our entire culture in a day, Velshara said finally. Our traditions are ancient and deeply rooted. Many of my people will reject this path, I know, Taiho said. But maybe some won't. Maybe it can start small and grow. The matriarch stood and returned to the gathering. Every eye watched her, waiting for judgment. I have led the Velkari for 200 years, she announced. In that time, I have defended our ways against all challenges. I have believed that our strength comes from our isolation, our independence, our refusal to need anyone. She paused, letting the tension build. But today, I have seen something that challenges everything I thought I knew. I have seen warriors choosing connection over solitude. I have seen humans and Velkari standing together without conquest or submission. And I have spoken with a human child who showed more wisdom than I have gathered in 5 centuries. Krathkon and the others waited, uncertain. I will not force our people to change, Velshara continued. Our traditions have value, and many will wish to continue the old ways. That is their right. But for those who wish to pursue this new path, I offer official recognition. We will create the Starbonded, a new warrior caste for Velkari who choose to form bonds with other species. Shock rippled through the crowd. This was unprecedented, revolutionary. Kryvax and those who stand with him will be the first star-bonded warriors. They will show us if this path has merit. It may fail. It may succeed. But we will no longer punish those brave enough to try. It was not everything, but it was a beginning. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Within days, other species began reaching out, cautiously asking about bonding programs with Velkari. Some Velkari traditionalists protested violently, but others, especially younger warriors, began to question the old ways. 6 months later, New Jeju had transformed into the center of the Star-Bonded program. Minji opened an academy where humans and Velkari could learn about each other's cultures safely. Hana became a specialist in interspecies communication. Doyen wrote a book about the bond that was required reading for anyone entering the program. It was not perfect. There were failures and conflicts. A Velkari warrior accidentally killed a human in a training accident, leading to legal battles and protests. Some bonds broke under pressure. Not every human and Velkari were compatible, but the successes outnumbered the failures. Slowly, carefully, the galaxy was changing. Taiho was 14 now, taller but still small compared to Kryvax. They traveled together as ambassadors, showing other worlds what was possible. Kryvax had taught Taiho advanced combat techniques, not for war but as meditation and art. Taiho had taught Kryvax how to laugh, something the galaxy had never heard from a Velkari before. On the anniversary of the crash, they returned to the cave where it all began. They sat together, watching the twin suns set over New Jeju's purple forests.